This is a potato demo by Medius.Re, where we will look at the trials feature using data available through Potatoes USA's use of Medius.Re. Okay, let's go ahead and look at how we can use the trials feature here in Medius.Re. So we're at the dashboard now of the Potatoes USA license. And what we can see is we have the different trial groups that are available here. Currently we have the snack chip trials selected. We can see the latest trials that are available here, and if I would click on one of these, it would open up that trial information. But another way of getting to the trials page for a specific trial group is to come over here to the sidebar. So we're going to go ahead and go to snack chip trials, and we're going to select trials. And this will pull up a list of trials for us. Now at this point, if we want to make more room for ourselves, we can come up here to the top and click on this little icon to hide the sidebar. Now let's go ahead and select the trials that we're interested in. I'm going to go ahead and select these fresh trials here: California, Florida, and Missouri, as well as North Carolina. And you can see as I selected those, the data has loaded over here on the side. You can see I have California, Florida, Missouri, and North Carolina. As I scroll down, you can see all of those. So let's kind of take a look at what we're looking at here on the trial page. So the first thing that you're going to see is obviously all of your data, but then it's going to be grouped by what we call these data field groups. So in this particular case, field data and process data are separated here. If you wanted to look at process data, you just go ahead and select that and it'll pull in that process data. But going back to field data, you can notice here that there are some data fields that just don't have values for them. So it's really easy if we wanted to get rid of some of these data fields that don't have values by coming up here to our settings. So let's talk about settings for a few minutes here. So to hide all of that, the data fields that don't have any data, we can just go ahead and click on Hide Empty Columns, and that's going to pare down those columns for us, so we're only looking at the ones that are relevant. The other thing you have here, Pin Trial Information, this is so you can, as you can see here, you can scroll horizontally while still keeping this trial information section there so you know what you're looking for. If you have a smaller screen or you prefer not to have that information pinned, you can turn that off, and now when you scroll, the entire table moves. So you have that option to toggle that on and off. Let's go ahead and look at, here we have standards, and so you can see what that is. I'm going to go over to process data. So for example, here we have merit score, and you can see good, margin/drop, marginal. If I were to turn the standards off, I'm going to see the numeric values that are represented for that data field. So you may not know, well, what is a 2.0 or a 3.5 in merit score? You may not know what is a 1 and a 1.5 in the SFA chip color. But if we turn on standards, then what that's going to show us is, okay, a 2 is good, 3.5 is this margin/drop, a 3 is marginal. So it gives us some indication as to what these numerical values mean. And so you'll see this throughout a lot of this potato data for things like tuber shape, tuber color, merit score. And as long as you have these standards turned on, it will show you what those values are, just to try to help you understand your data better. As we continue to walk down through these options that are available here within trial settings, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn off some of these trials just so that we can see the effect here of some of these features with one trial selected. So I'm going to keep Missouri here selected. And as you can see, I have Atlantic in here and Snowden in here multiple times. Each of these varieties are in here multiple times. And as you can see, they're all a part of this same sample, but each of them has a different replicate number, meaning that there were multiple replicates that were tested for each one of these varieties in this trial. So what's nice is you can view the detail of each replication, but if you're interested in the average of the replications, you can just go ahead and turn on average replicates, and what you'll see now is it pared those down to the actual 11 varieties, and averaged out the replicate values here for you. So you have the option of looking at it averaged, or you can turn that back off and look at them individually, depending on your needs. Another option you have here is check averages. So you'll see next to Atlantic and next to Snowden, there are these check marks. Those indicate that these varieties are the check varieties for this particular trial. The check variety meaning this is the variety that everything else will be tested against or compared to. And if you have a really long list of varieties, or you have multiple trials selected, it can be difficult sometimes to see to find where these check varieties are and be able to compare something that you're looking at elsewhere to that. So that's where this check averages comes into play. And if you turn that on, what that will allow you to do is not only will it average the check varieties that from the data that exists in that trial, but if you expand out your dates, you can get a multi-year average of those check varieties available in the footer here. So what I'm able to see down here is I'm able to see that the Atlantic over the 2019 and the 2020 crop year had an average total yield of 386.9, which you can see looking here at the current year 2020, then most likely this affected the yield by increasing that average, because these averages look higher than what 386.9 would be. So this check average will give you a good indication of how variety performed, how these check varieties performed over multiple years, just to give you some kind of indication of performance. If you're not interested in some of these data fields being visible, down here under data fields, you can go ahead and you can just turn off any of these data fields that you're not interested in. Or if you're interested in, you can turn them back on. So you have the ability to toggle those, and that controls the view and the information that you're viewing here in trials, here part of trial settings. So let's go ahead and look at some other options that we would have here within trials. Again, still looking at this Missouri trial, if you click on any one of these headers, you can sort that descending or ascending based on this arrow indication here, so that you can easily sort your data by a specific column to see whether something was a top yielder or it was a bottom yield. But that may not be totally helpful to you if you're trying to do an analysis across multiple data fields, or if you're looking at large data sets. And so an additional feature that you have here within the trials module is this toggle filters. So I'm going to go ahead and click toggle filters, and what that's going to do is it's going to show me all of the data fields that I have available to filter by in this current data set. So let's say for specific gravity, I click on specific gravity and it builds this nice range for me. So 1078 was the lowest specific gravity that we had in this data set, and 1098 was the largest. So I'm interested where I need gravity that's above 1085. So all I had to do is drag my range to now 1085, and you can see down here at the bottom that I had these 33 variety records now that are filtered from the original 44 variety records. So it gives you an easy way to pare this down and to be able to start finding varieties that would fall within your specifications. Now you don't have to stop there with just one. We can continue to stack additional filters. And so let's go ahead and look at yield total. And I want to make sure that my yield total is up above 365. So again, I drag the slider over to create this range. And now you can see that what I'm left with are the varieties and the replicates, because we're looking at the replicates now individually, that meet the requirements that I've specified here within my filter. So this is a nice quick way to glance at multiple trials. You can look at an individual trial. If you're interested in getting down into the nitty-gritty of the data, to be able to see it all, to have all of the detail available to you. One thing I didn't mention that you've probably been wondering about is there's these little image/video icons here on the side, and that indicates if there's a image or a video, some kind of multimedia associated with that variety record. So for example, this Atlantic in sample 2 that was rep 4, it has a picture associated with it, or multiple pictures. And so if I just click on that, it'll pull up the full screen view of that image. And I can walk through each one of those photos by just clicking these over arrows here. Or if you're interested, you could come up here and get a gallery view, and it will show you all of the images that are available for that particular record that you selected. And then you're welcome to download the picture as well, or there's an option for a slideshow. And you'll always get an indication of the year and the trial location and the variety and the sample that you have selected when you expand that image, so you know where you are, or it helps you remember what you're looking at. So lastly, let's clear this information out. And let's go back to our trial selections, and let's say you want to pull all of the fresh data and you want to export that to use in your own analysis tool, whether you're using a SAS tool or your own RStudio that you want to do on your own, or you have your own Excel formulas that run different things. You have multiple ways to export data, but here in trials, this is one of the ways. So I have all the fresh trials selected here, and now I'm going to go back to my trial settings, and we don't need check averages. We can turn that off so we don't clutter up our view. And I'm going to come down here to management. So I can either download this as a CSV or download it as an Excel document. So I'm going to go ahead and hit download Excel, and we're going to see that exported that. Okay, so here we are now in the Excel document, and it looks very similar to what you had seen over in Medius.Re, but you have all that information now available to you within Excel. Okay, so that is kind of a quick deep dive into all of the different options that you have within the trials feature as a part of Medius.Re.